Order. First, by asking everybody to please stand for the pledge to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I understand there are some people here tonight that would probably like to speak during one of the public hearings. I will ask if there's any public comments, questions on agenda items only. You can please approach the podium, or you can wait until the public hearing if it has anything to do with one of the four that we have this evening. If it's anything different, you can please approach the podium now. Seeing nobody approaching the podium, we'll start off with the presentation by the J.H. Ketchum Hose Company. I believe President Brian Kelly and Chief J.P. Aubrey.
Good evening, everyone. With me tonight, I have Chief J.P. Aubrey, Kevin Harris, which is our Assistant Chief, Station 2, and I also have Past Chief Bob Satori, and he's actually our Treasurer. So at this time, I'd like to give you just a rundown of what happened in 2023. The J.H. Ketchum Hose Company responded to 343 fire-related calls in 2023, which includes 17 in-building fires, 55 auto accidents, 1 vehicle fire, 4 brush fires, 1 swift water rescue, where we requested the Arlington Fire District Special Operations Team to safely conduct a rescue and remove a trapped victim from the fast-moving floodwaters of the 10 Mile River. 133 automatic fire alarms, 11 carbon monoxide detector activations, 81 EMS calls for a total of 3,745.75 volunteer response hours. The town of Dover ambulance responded to 914 EMS calls in 2023. It's an average of 2.5 calls per day. The shared services agreement that the town has with the town of Amenia covers our area with their ambulance during back-to-back calls. Town of Amenia ambulance responded to the town of Dover 149 times. The town has also received mutual aid from NDP, Unionvale, Pauling, Millbrook ambulances 36 times for a total of 185 EMS calls. We continue to upgrade our fire apparatus so JHK can provide the highest level of fire service to our town residents. We're in the process of speccing a new pumper tanker, which will take approximately 27 months for delivery once it's ordered. Before COVID, fire trucks were built to order and delivered within 9 months. As stated last year, we received a MIG grant from Dutchess County in the amount of $40,000 for the purchase of battery-powered rescue tools for vehicle extrication. Total cost for the upgrade of the rescue tools was $55,020. The Halmetro rescue tools were delivered on December 15th, 2023. Firefighters were provided with in-service training, and the rescue tools were placed in service on February 23rd, 2024. In 2023, New York State DEC announced that JHK would receive a matching grant for $2,500. JHK purchased state portable water packs for brush fire suppression and 3 automated external defibrillators, AEDs. Staff were provided in-service training on the new AEDs, and they were placed in service. On February 10th, 2024, the fire company purchased from state contract a 2023 Chevy Tahoe. This new vehicle replaces our 2013 Ford F-250 Chiefs truck. The new Tahoe was lettered and upfitted with emergency lighting and placed in service. The current cost to outfit our interior firefighters is $6,887. That includes a bunker coat, bunker pants, helmet, boots, particulate hood, and gloves. With the new regulations that OSHA is trying to put forward, they're trying to make where interior firefighters have to have 2 sets of turnout gear. At this time, we always had 1 set of turnout gear due to the cost, but if OSHA pushes that, that's an unfunded mandate, which all interior firefighters will need 2 sets of turnout gear. Supervisor Eno has been working on a way to break down the annual cost for the fire and ambulance service in our tax bill. This breakdown will provide taxpayers with an accurate cost for the fire service and paid ambulance service. As you know, the paid ambulance service will be your largest increase as you prepare your budget this year. The fire department is requesting that a committee be established to draft a local law on fire hydrants. The Fire Code of New York State, Section 508.5, fire hydrant system states, all fire hydrant systems shall comply with Section 508.5.1 through 508.5.6. This includes inspection, testing, maintenance, no obstructions, a clear space around fire hydrants, and a hydrant flow test that is to be conducted every 5 years. We're asking that an additional provision be added where the Town of Dover Building Department sends a representative to all public and private hydrant districts and observe 20% of the annual inspections, testing, and maintenance, along with observing 20% of the hydrant flow testing that is to be conducted every 5 years. Also, fire hydrants should have the top cap clearly painted per the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA 291, top colors, which allows our fire chiefs and pump operators to quickly identify the flow rate of the fire hydrant by just looking at it. Hydrant colors for fire flows are blue, green, orange, and red. We are currently going into our 4th year of the 5-year contract, which runs through 2026. Although the 5-year contract provides stability, we're feeling the squeeze of the increased cost in all areas of our budget. As everyone knows, the fire company responded to a reported large fire on October 27th at 1:32 a.m. at the intersection of Old Pauling Road and Westover Road. The officers quickly assessed the fire, and at daybreak, mutual aid departments were requested to assist us in bringing the wildland fire under control. It took the first day to create the fire break to stop the fire from spreading. Once the fire break was in place, 20 acres had burned in a very steep terrain. During the initial call, along with JHK, assisting were 14 mutual aid departments from Dutchess, Columbia, and Connecticut, which provided 5 engines, 2 tankers, 7 brush trucks, 5 UTVs, and approximately 150 firefighters. 2 New York State Forest Rangers, 2 helicopters from the New York State Police Aviation Division, which provided 99 airdrops for a total of 65,000 gallons of water dropped on the fire in the first 2 days of the fire. The Dutchess County Sheriff's Office Drone Division that provided the most up-to-date information on the fire spread, wind direction, and also providing us with the mapping and live video of the fire scene so we could move assets to the most critical areas of the fire. The Town of Dover and Amenia ambulances that rotated in and out of the fire scene and responded to several additional EMS calls in Dover during the incident, and Pleasant Valley and New Hackensack fire departments that stood by at Station 1 and covered 2 additional fire-related calls while we were at the brush fire. The J.H. Ketchum Hose Company Auxiliary, who were busy making sure that the firefighters were fed and hydrated throughout the entire 7 days of the fire, and the outpouring of continued support that we received from the community and our surrounding neighbors who graciously donated to the fire company, provided food, drinks, and snacks. We truly appreciate it, and we can't thank you enough. Hotspots continue to burn in the containment area as 5 New York State DEC Forest Rangers continue to monitor the affected area. Also, we would like to thank Supervisor Eno and the Town Board for declaring a state of emergency and placing a burn ban on all open burning due to the severe drought conditions in our area. Lastly, if you would like to become a volunteer firefighter or an EMT, you can stop by either fire station, Dover or Wingdale, at any Monday night, and we will provide you with a tour and introduce you to our members. Joining the volunteer fire service is a rewarding experience and a way to give back to your community. Once again, we'd like to thank you for allowing J.H. Ketchum Hose Company the opportunity to update the town board, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. And as always, for that yearly report, some people don't know the pricing of, the requirements of, the mandatory expenditures that you all have, and so do we. The amount of calls that we do, that's a number that some towns don't even see, especially on the EMS end. All right, over 900 calls. All right, and again, that'll come up later in the discussion, the ambulance issue. So, but with that, the comment you made about the ban, we talked, heavily that day about doing that. And again, I said, I talked over with council, each meeting leading up to the end of the year, I will reiterate that that ban is in place, and it will be in place until further notice. All right?
Thank you.
Once we get some weather to break,
Hopefully we get some rain.
myself, your committee, the chief, we'll discuss it, and then we'll see if we'll reach out to the state and see what they think as well, and then we'll go from there. But until then, as far as I'm concerned, it's until whenever we say no.
One thing that I can say is the kids enjoyed the helicopter flying in and out of Bush Park
Yeah.
from the Wingdale Elementary School.
We got pictures sent to us. They were
Yeah.
looking out the windows every time they flew over.
Every time the
So,
helicopter came in, they were going to the windows and looking out. So maybe we'll get a couple firefighters out of them.
yeah. With that, we'll also thank Wingdale Materials, Peckham, as well as the owners of the old drag strip. They were using their lake as well. We found out later in that day. But again, thank you very much. We appreciate the report, and let's share that information on the hydrants, and
Okay.
we'll move on
All
that.
right, JP, you got anything? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Yes.
Okay, at this time, we'll get the short ones out of the way. At this time, I'd like to move that we open a public hearing on the proposed 2025 assessment on Cricket Hill Drainage District. This is one of the two drainage districts that we have within our town that we're responsible to maintain and take care of. Do I have a second to open up the first one?
Second.
Motion made by myself and seconded by Deputy Supervisor Murphy to open up the public hearing on the 2025 assessment on Cricket Hill Drainage District. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Public hearing is open on the Drainage District. Is there anybody here that would like to talk on the Cricket Hill Drainage District? Okay, as you'll see later on in the presentation of certain parts of the budget, no money was added to this. Once again, Highway maintains it. It needs to be cleaned out, swaled out. They take care of it. That's what that tax district is for, to maintain it, fix whatever else that may need to be done to that. So along with that, nobody else? Good?
Well, good.
All right, seeing nobody approach the podium to discuss the Cricket Hill Drainage District, I move that we close this public hearing.
Second.
Made in motion and seconded by Councilwoman Jackson to close the public hearing on Cricket Hill Drainage District. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So carried, that public hearing is closed. At this time, I make a motion to open the public hearing on the 2025 assessment on the Mill Drainage District. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made by myself and a second by Maluda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Public hearing is open on the Mill Drainage District. Is there anybody here to speak on the Mill Drainage District? Same thing. Tax district, money is put into an account to maintain, fix, whatever it needs to be done. That's our responsibility. That is a taxable district for that drainage district, the people that live within that area. I should have explained that on the first one. They pay the money to that tax to maintain that area, and we take care of it through the highway. Okay? Anybody else? Is a hand up? I thought I saw a hand go up. No? Okay, at this time, I'd like to move that we close the public hearing on the assessment of the Mill Drainage District. Do I have a second?
Second.
Made by myself, seconded by Maluda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That public hearing is closed. Next public hearing, proposed local law number 2 of 2024, override of the tax cap. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made by myself to open the public hearing on the override of the tax cap for 2025. All in favor?
Aye.
Seconded by Deputy Supervisor Murphy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So carried. The public hearing is open. Anybody has any questions or statements, or if you want, you can hold off to the next public hearing where I'll explain the budget, and then you can ask all the questions you like on that one. But if anybody has a question now, going into this, feel free to come to the podium. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Amber Jordan. Know a little bit about government, used to work government. I want to make sure that, I'm not sure a lot of people understand, is this actually a one-time override of the tax cap, that every year you have to renew this if you want to override it?
True.
True. Two, what is the tax cap that Dover is allowed to have for this year?
2%.
2%? And they're looking at, what's the next amount you're actually looking at?
2.4 over that.
So a total of
So a
4.4?
total of 4.44.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? Okay. At this time, I'd make a motion to close the public hearing on the override of the tax cap. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made by myself, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Murphy. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So carried. I make a motion to open a preliminary 2025 town budget public hearing. Do I have a second? Motion made by myself, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Murphy. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So carried. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a short presentation. I hope I can answer a lot of questions just by the presentation because I can read social media. Okay, what that is on there is a graph and the statistics. The increases in this year's budget are mainly cost of doing business expenses. Utilities, insurances, ambulance services, okay? All medical insurances, liability insurances. So what we have here right now is I did a graph for you all to see. In 2020 when I took over, okay? That's where it was. The blue that you see, the lighting, that's your street lights. That's your street light districts. We have 3 of them. Maple and Mill, Lime Kiln, all the street lights, they're taxable lighting districts. The people that live within those lighting districts cover the expenses for the lights, the repairs, and the maintenance. Okay? And then it just goes down the line. You see it leveled off from 21 to 23. We went into a very good contract with a supplier, and that helped. Supplier went up a little bit last year, okay? $32,000 just for the street lighting. $32K for building lighting. The red part of that graph is the buildings that we own. That's what we pay a year in utility bills for lighting in this place. All right? And now this year, see the major increase? $22,500 increase just for the street lighting itself, with another approximately $38,000 on the other piece. I'm sorry, it's up to about $38,000 on the buildings. Buildings are this place, Highway, excuse me, Rec, JHK Memorial, Tabor Wing, the Legion part of the library building. That's all of our lighting utilities, okay? That's the increase. And you know who you can thank? The Public Service Department. They granted NYSEG a 27% rate increase. Now, we are in a contract, of course, with our supplier. You know how you all can go to a different supplier and get the best kilowatt hour? Well, we're in a contract. So that's where we're at right now. I think we're going into the final year of a contract with them. So here's where we are. And of course, when that contract comes due, we'll shop the hell out of it. All right, but I can't help that, especially when the state grants them 27%. All right? The next one, liability. That's liability insurance. Okay, in 2020, when I took over, it was just over $80,000, and you see the increase from that. That's your premium from a year. But look from 23 to 25. Okay? It is now $118,000 going into 2025. $28,000 in less than 4 years, the increase. Now, we all know that because we pay them on our own. Every one of our insurances have gone up. And what do? You shop it. We shopped it, and that's the best we can find. All right? That's an expense that I can't get away from. I got to have liability insurance. I got properties, I got equipment, I got workers. All right? Look at the increase. It's a steady increase the last 4 or 5 years. All right? And the problem is, to meet these needs, I've done everything I can in the first 4 years. I've used fund balance, I've moved monies, Well, when you start using, just like when you're at home, you start depleting your bank account gets lower, and God forbid something happens. Because everybody can say, another day, Sandy is going to come through here, or Irene. And Mr. Kelly, what did Sandy cost us? $1 million? Right? So there's another issue. Here's a big one. Medical insurance. Now, in the middle there, you can see we're right around $500,000 when I took over. We made our handlers shop it. We were able to maintain under 500. And then 24 came. $550,000 approximately. And now 24 came. $600K. Medical insurance to cover our employees and the ones who take the medical benefit. This year also, we have 2 employees that didn't take the benefits in the past. This year they chose to take them. I still have to budget for the amount of employees, full-time employees that I have. I can't not budget for it and then somebody come to me, my wife lost her job or my husband lost their job and I need to take on the benefits now. I got to have the money in the budget. Okay? So you can see we shopped it, we made them shop it, they did, and there it is. $44,000 plus for a family plan now. That's what it's up to. Now, I have the same insurance through my job that we have here, NYSHIP. I can remember not long ago, it was still under 25 grand. But you see what it's done since in the last 5 years. 4 years going into the 25. All right? And here's the next one. Ambulance service. Now, you heard how many calls we do? 913, I think you said, Brian? 932. Had the 9 and the 3 right. So what happened coming into 2020 when I was elected, we were in a contract. All right, we were in a contract, and that contract year started out around $230,000. Okay? Well, what happened is my predecessor, along with 2 other towns, because we're in a contract with Amenia and Northeast, which is Millerton. Okay? They negotiated a contract with Northern Dutchess Paramedics, and each year, after the starting point, they wrote in a 2% increase. Well, thank you for us, but 2% just didn't cut the mustard. Then COVID hit. And as the sorry excuse that we all use, but it's the truth, COVID just crushed everything. So right around here, 22 after COVID, Northern Dutchess's prices started going up, but we were in a contract and we held them to it. So what happened is we come to the end of this contract, now we go into negotiations. I formed a committee, myself, council of course, deputy in my absence or with me, as well as members from the fire department. We sat down, we hashed out the contract, we found the changes that we wanted. Now, we were put on point that we were told it was going to go up 100%. 100% of $292,426 is what we paid in 2024. That's the yearly payment. Well, it was going to go up another one, another 292. Well, it didn't. In our first proposal that we were given, they came in with a 75% increase, which took it to $510,700. And I'll show you in a minute that that is the number that is in my tentative budget. Okay? Since then, we've had meetings, phone meetings, in-person meetings. Council has been with me as well. We have negotiated, and like I said last meeting when we went page by page in our budget workshop, our special meeting, whatever you want to call it, we hammered it out. I did everything I could. I begged. You can't hit us as hard as you're hitting us. But here's the thing. They have a business to run as well. And their goal per year, just like the other agencies that we talked to and got numbers from, We just didn't lock in on the one. I went to 3, just like I should. Their number per year to run a full crew, 24/7, and a rig is $800,000. That's salary, insurances, maintenance, supplies, whatever else they need. $800,000. So what they do is they start at $800,000, and because New York State allows them to bill along with the tax money that we give them, they subtract an estimated amount of what they get per year, per call, per insurance claim. So they throw the insurance claim in on 932 calls. They don't get them all. Okay, they don't get them all. They eat them. So what happens is, if you look at the numbers that they started with, let's just round it down to 500. They're looking at 800. It was 510.7. Let's say it's 500. They're estimating that they're going to make upwards of $300,000 in the town of Dover off of insurance claims. We have to make up the rest, the taxpayers. That's where the $500,000 come. So we negotiated. Myself, supervisors from Amenia and Northeast, we sat down with them, and I think we made them realize we got to work something out. So what we did is we got them down to 50% the first year. So instead of 292,426, the first year is now 401,563. Took basically $108,000 off that. But they now spread it out amongst the 3-year contract with an option 4th and an option 5th. Okay? The second year is $560,700, which is an add-on of $159,137. Okay? Now, part of this budget, you'll see, and I'll show it to you, I put in $50,000 into contingency this year for 2025. So in 2025, when I do the 26 budget, I'm already $50,000 ahead of it. I got a plan now for the expense down the line. Because then the third year just works out, it's $50,000. And then the option year, we negotiated $50,000, $50,000. Okay? It's big money. It's big dollars. And it is a service that you, the people, and the town deserve. Because truthfully, and the fire company will vouch for this, by law, the town only has to provide fire protection. That is it. Any of you want to sit up here and say I'm not giving you ambulance service? No, because we deserve it, and we need it, and I got to make it put it in place. And our main objective with myself, Amenia, and Northeast is the main objective is we're going to have a service for you January 1st. And this is where we're at. Now, it took a lot of talking to get them down to that first year. They wanted their $218,000 increase. And it's all about the increase in salaries, insurance, everything I listed. Okay? So that's where we're at with this. I did go out to another agency. Those of you that are familiar with the ambulance service here in the county, another agency by the name of Empress. And I reached out to another agency that is based out of Newburgh, who only comes into one area in Dutchess County, which is Beacon. They were removed from another county, so I didn't pursue it much further, as well as an issue with the backfill stipulation that's within the contract. Okay? Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Yep.
I've never had to call an ambulance, so I really don't know, but if I was to call an ambulance, don't I get billed from the insurance company, my insurance company?
You'd be covered under there, and then Northern Dutchess would forward a bill to your insurance and put a claim against it.
Right.
And if they don't cover it, I'm sure, yes, they would reach out to you to cover up the difference.
Right, so how many, I guess not everybody has insurance, but if they do have insurance, it offsets some of that cost, huh?
They subtract it from the 800K, and then we make up the difference. So their estimate from 800,000, we'll say we'll round it down that 510.7, all right, to 500,000. So that was the starting number. And then after negotiations, I got it down to 400. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to help us in a way by getting to that 800K in 3 years instead of 1 or 2. So they kind of spread it out. Again, it's $100 and some thousand increase instead of 218. You know, they're helping us out that way. It helped. It didn't kill us, but it hurt us.
Be available even if there's no calls, right? Those
Yep,
charges.
24/7.
Even if there's no calls that they bill to insurance.
They get paid for staying here 24/7, and they're housed in the center of Dover. We are working on, the fire company is working on a location in the center of our town, and what we're doing is we're hammering out the numbers now, okay? We're hammering out the numbers now, and then one of my favorite words is we're going to tweak the contract for after the first of the year, but we'll be locked in for service on January 1st, okay? And then we'll change some things, we'll rewrite some things, and what I'd like to get in there is a stipulation that if we can find them housing within the middle of the town, depending on their rental, which we're hoping is free, we want them to say we will then adjust the payment each year because they don't have the rent to cover. That's another expense that they have. So I mentioned an ambulance service out of Newburgh. I also reached out to Empress. I can tell you right now that Empress, on the original numbers, was over $300,000 more than Northern Dutchess on the original number. Okay? Go ahead.
How many ambulances does that cover in our town?
One.
One ambulance, so if it's busy in another area,
When Brian gave you the number of Amenia coming to us 149 times, that's because ours was out on another call. So it's $800,000 is their number for one ambulance, ALS, Advanced Life Support, 24/7. It's big money. And every town in every county, or every town in this county, I should say, has issues.
and our fire department still, they don't have an
No, they do not.
ambulance.
No, they do not. So it's a paid service. So, you know, that's where we're at. That's probably the biggest expense we have, which is like President Kelly mentioned. And if you read the papers, we've been in the papers, Amenia's been in the papers, Northeast, they truthfully, they pay more than we do. They pay more than we do. We're fortunate, but yet unfortunate, we have so many calls a year, okay? Because the more calls a year you have, the lower your premium is. Why? They bill the insurance. They make their money there. Okay?
Bittersweet.
What's that?
It's bittersweet, right?
Yeah, but again, you know, we have done everything we can possibly do on this topic, other than, hopefully, we can tweak the contract to the point where it might help us down the road. Other towns have municipal space. They pay them the bill, but yet they rent them the space and they get some of that money back. Unfortunately, we don't have that. Okay? Any questions on them graphs that I showed?
What are the two colors here? I don't see a legend to differentiate.
On this one,
The orange versus the blue.
it's what we budgeted, where we're at.
Oh, got it.
That's all.
Okay,
Yeah, it's the actual, right?
thank you.
We're going up. That was the original price of 510. We got it to here,
Got it. Thank you.
okay? So across the board, it's just the same, right? Because we were in a 5-year contract. Okay, and then here is their first number and what I was able to get it down to through negotiations and a little bit of whatever. Begging. Yeah. So, any other questions on any of the graphs? Yes?
Further back, a little bit further back, you had health insurance. Is Dover 100% covered in health insurance, or do the employees contribute?
The employees contribute.
Is that percentage available or public?
Any new employee after 2021, I think I changed it when I got in, they pay 20%. I went by the state and county rates. Anybody before that was set up before me, and it's a certain percentage. It's maybe upwards of 8 or 9, it's not a lot, 10 maybe. Before that, up until I'm going to say under Supervisor Corteen, maybe in his last term, employees were free. They didn't pay at all. He brought that into effect. And it was,
Is it a night shift or blue collar?
we have night shift.
Deductible?
We have shopped others. Truthfully, night shift came in, again, the best. But yet, we don't want to deplete. I'm dead against depleting our people's coverage. If they have coverage right here, I'm not going to say, well, I need to save money, I'm going to take it down to here, and truthfully, to put it bluntly, screw over my staff. I'm not going to do that.
I'm just curious on the percentage, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, again, we shop it each and every year. When our premiums, when our renewals come due, Tim knows. Shop them. And if we don't find anything better, then that's where we stay. Okay? Any other questions on any of these?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
we're paying $510,000 a year in 2025 for one ambulance and a crew, how many?
2.
Two.
Yep.
Paramedics.
Yeah, that's just astounding.
Town of Stanford, first year with a paid agency, BLS, Basic Life Support, $650,000.
So what happens if we get support from another township? How does that factor in?
It's reciprocating mutual aid. It's all within what we call in the county mutual aid plan. Okay, it's, if they come to us, we go to them.
Okay.
Mutual aid is reciprocated. And that's just the way it works, both on the fire side and the EMS side. Again, and we've had where there's two rigs out in the valley. And you may see, like he gave a statistic of Pauling or Unionville coming in. Whatever the location is, if Amenia is not available, they go to the next closest, supposedly. Okay?
VA Pauling,
Yep.
does that come out of our budget too, of course?
We paid one solid price. If we don't have a rig available because they're out on a call, Pauling comes in, it's all under one price. Nothing separate. It's just one premium fee, we'll say. Yes, sir.
So it's way out of question to set up our own ambulances and then dispatch in this town, or they out of question?
Patterson tried it. It's gone to a different system. I think it failed, right?
I noticed down in the city, in the Jewish community, they have their own
Yep.
total networks.
Yep.
Well, they got the money.
But 2 paramedics.
No
24
comment.
day.
Anybody else? If anybody else has any question, I'll go into a little bit of a budget presentation if you want. See a little bit extra. If not, I hope I answered some questions, but I'll go through it for you. Okay, this was the original page. This is the page that myself and my bookkeeper and my assistant budget officer put together after we met with department heads. This is what they give me, their wish lists, needed, what they need, supplies, programs, mechanical items, maintenance items, parts list, materials, whatever else. When it was all said and done, that came to 16.84%. That's 14.8 over the cap. Okay? Then after I got my hands on it, and my bookkeeper, we basically had meetings, said we can't do this, we got to find some stuff. We rounded down. We looked at overtime lines. If you didn't, if you asked for 1,000 hours on a highway, but you only used 700, we took it to 850, just as an example, okay? When I got done with it with my bookkeeper and my staff and the department heads again, I was able to get it to 10.2. Took off 6.8%, 6.6%, right? That's just doing initial cuts. Initial cuts. $6.1 million budget. All right? And then that's the tentative. That's the one that I presented to the board by law. I give it to the clerk, she gives it to all the members. That's what we went into. Then we go into last meeting. We go page by page. We discuss the increases. All right, and it's a standard increases like I show you, as well as contractual increases in raise. Highways under contract, they negotiate that. They get their, I think this year was 3%. Okay? Not a big raise. Last year was 4. They went backwards for whatever reason, they staggered it. Okay? So we usually go by the contract for all staff throughout the town. Okay? Whatever highway gets, our other workers get. Part-timers, it factors out to a little bit less. Full-timers, if it's 3%, it's 3%. So we got it down to 10.2. Now, that 10.2 also has the 510,000 figure for Northern Dutchess. It also has a ban Hmm? 2017 Mack dump truck, here, find it for me. 2017 Mack dump truck, I want to move this way. 2018, you're going to go to 9730. And a 2018 5500. A ban is basically borrowed money, a loan, okay? We're fortunate we came into a windfall with some building permits from the Transco project. So what I did to save the budget somewhat, you'll see that right there? That's what was going to be put in the budget. All right, $76,800, move up please. And then that's the interest payment. So that's a one-time a year payment. $76,000, and the $28,11 is the interest on it. What we did is we took that, and to save the budget somewhat, we paid it off. We paid it off early. We saved upwards of $4,000 to $5,000 in interest. But what I did is I took $78,000 out of the budget. So that initial move took that 10.6 down. Now go back to the beginning, please.
Tentative.
Yep. I got it now. Thank you. So remember when I said, we're at 10.2 there. See it right there? Then we took it to the preliminary. Rounding down on certain pages, rounding down on certain programs, Julie doing away with certain programs, the discussions that we had amongst the board members, cutting back on some other issues. We go back, we present the preliminary budget next meeting, and I got this thing down to 4.4%, $5.9 million. Now, again, we had a little luck. We got the major permit from Transco, which helped us big time. Can't deny it. It's supposed to go into our revenue, take care of other issues. We knew this budget, we knew this year was going to be tough because of the increases that I showed you and the ambulance. So I made a decision as the budget officer and as a supervisor to pay that ban off, the bigger of the three that we have in this town. Okay? And we got it down to 4.4. Without seeing anything else that I could possibly cut, that's basically 2.44% over the cap. Okay? But remember, This right here, see this $50,000 I'm circling? That $50,000 is for next year. That's to get me $50,000 closer for the next payment on the ambulance service in year number 2 of the contract. So instead of 159, it's 109. See what I did there? It helps me next year by doing it this year, planning for down the road. This here, this $25,000, that is a contingency line that when we took over in 2020, my first budget as supervisor for 2021, myself, staff, board members, Jason, highway, you'll see highway defund there, right? They had no, what the fire company likes to call a vehicle replacement fund. So we said we need to do something here and store money away each year. Okay? Monies like this, we use the pilot money from Cricket Valley. A lot of that pilot money is throughout the budget as well. When I took over, my predecessor was getting the first one. We had no financial plan for that money. So what she did is she put it into the budget and she used it, most of it. What she didn't use, we formed these lines, contingency lines. Up until this year, this 50 wasn't here. But in the budget, I have $35,000 contingency, and Jason has $25,000 contingency. What that contingency line is, and our running joke is it's an equipment replacement fund. You can buy anything from a weed whacker to a 10-wheeler, okay? What we do is we put that money away each and every year, so 5 years down the road when he has to spec a major piece of equipment, he has $100,000, $150,000, $130,000 to put down on it. And then we don't have to borrow $600, we'd only need to borrow $450 or $500. That's all that is, okay? So that's all within this budget, okay? So when you come over 3 columns, this column right here, with the windfall from Transco, the cutting that we did, the adjustments that we made, the negotiations that we made, this number right here, $150,000, then $100,000 under it, which adds up to $250,000, $5,000 out of the fire protection fund, $255,000, see that total? That is coming out of fund balance to help get that budget down to 4%. Now, I could tell you right now that I am against using a lot of fund balance. There are predecessors before me that would use this like it was cool. I don't like taking money out of savings if you don't have to. But this year, there are years that you have to. And the state sees a fund balance and they measure it by percentage. Okay? And it's the rule of thumb has always been 12 to 15%. Okay? Well, 15% of our budget is about $800,000 that you should have in the bank. You know, it's the old rule of thumb like in your own house. What is it, 4 or 5 or 6 months worth of bills saved up, right? Well, that's kind of what we look at it here. All right? If you get over that, the state starts frowning on that. Me, I'm a firm believer you save as much as you can. You never know when it's going to happen. So what this does is it lowers my fund balance a little bit. An exact number, what it's going to take it down to, it's under 800. It's under 800. But in order to get a somewhat reasonable budget, I have to do it. There's no way around it. Most of the increases, if not probably 90% of the increases in here, are just stuff that I can't control. The other 10% is probably more than 10%, but it's the cost of supplies. It's pay raises by contract. It's all of them miscellaneous stuff. So probably safer to say this is 80%, okay? And the rest of it's just whatevers. I changed the water plan and highway because of the salt and everything in the ground, we don't make our guys drink it. So we buy jugs of water like you see in the back corner. But we used to buy bottles. By going from bottles to that, I bought every employee a carry jug, and by doing that, I'm saving over $3,000 a year. They fill their jug up each day. It's little things like that that we're cutting back on. All right? Any questions? I'll show you anything you want to see. Go ahead.
Do you guys have any federal grants or anything from
Wow.
offset some of this cost?
Yeah, we apply for every grant that's out there. Yeah, we can. I've said it before. Any baseball player in the world would want Katie Palmer House's average on grant rating. Right? So, you know, at this time, we only have one grant in place. I just read it last meeting, $87,500 for a major project in Dover. We're going to improve the crosswalk from the school to the opposite side for the Stone Church. All right? And there's another expense that hurt us. I read it a few meetings ago. We got ruled against in court, and we had to pay out $100,000 out of fund balance to the people that sued us. Okay? And we're still in court for that. That was just to pay back years of use and another year's worth of use.
For Stone Church.
$100K out of fund balance. So that's as much as I can talk about that here, but it was an expense that was unexpected, and this is where it came from. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Is this where you're leading into the next topic of increasing or something
What-
like property tax cap?
Yep, what you'll hear is the resolution to basically override the tax cap by 2.4%. That's what it is. You got to remember that the tentative budget was out to the public shortly after we presented it, and then the preliminary, so a lot of people saw, if they understand it, they probably saw the 10%, which is 8% over. That's a big hit. We have always been consistently, there's only 1 year that I've gone backwards, and that was my first budget in 2021 as supervisor, because we were coming out of COVID, and it wasn't a lot, but I was below zero, okay? Because we didn't know what we were getting. County sales tax was only guaranteed $389,000, okay, from the county. But my predecessor, and I voted on it too, and her predecessors, we had $589,000 or $90,000 budgeted. Well, we're $200,000 short going in, because that's part of your revenue. That's what helps lower your budget. Now, Brian can tell you, he's a former deputy supervisor, that's a number that you could play with to help you, because you can estimate, some say guesstimate, okay? But you know about what you're getting each and every year, okay? Well, that year, I couldn't estimate nothing. We were told by executive at the time, Marcus Molinaro, you're getting what Dover is entitled to, and that is $389,000. So going into my first budget process, I'm 200 in the hole. So, you know, is it a shell game? No, but yes. All right? But what we're looking to do tonight is we're going to read a resolution. And I said it last meeting. We're going to read to go over the cap tonight by 2.4%, but I have been a firm believer, some before me weren't. My budget is a work in progress until the night I voted in, and that's November 20th. If I need to make a change because some information came down where I could put a lower number in it, I don't care if it makes it 4.43. I'm going to do it. Right to the point, to the minute that I vote on it. I will say we need to change it, we will approve that change, and then we'll vote that budget in. And that's the way I've always done it. I've made changes, I've made predecessors change it during this process. Go ahead.
For the tax cap, say next year, like, or is 4.4, is that the max that it'll go up? Or can it go up higher than that?
It can go up higher than that.
So with this.
I mean, you saw it already, I was at 10%,
With the
and I made sacrifices and
So with
decisions.
the appeal to go above the tax cap, there's no limit.
It has to be by 60%, Tom, basically 3-2. Tom, you want to give a little idea on that?
I did read 60%.
Yeah, it's a 60% of the town board members, so it would need, obviously, a majority vote.
And this is something that you said you'd have to vote on every year, because obviously
Yep.
it's not gonna go down.
The general municipal law requires a local law to be passed, requires a public hearing, so that's what was on for tonight. So this local law is specific to the 2025 budget. If 2026 numbers came in at this time next year and they were looking to increase over 2%, they'd have to go through the same exact process again. They can't rely on this local law to do it again.
We have, in all my years up here, we have done this before, but it never got to the point where we had to pass it. We would use more fund balance, which that's the easiest way out. But again, because of the hit we took on the 100K and the money that I'm already using, to me, you need to keep your fund balance safe. I guess that's the simplest way I can explain it.
And that ambulatory is not contracted for several years, it's just next year?
No, we will probably enter into at least a 3-year contract. They don't want a solid 5-year contract anymore, but they will go 3-year contract with an option 4th and an option 5th, which I believe we talked in our committee meeting that night. They said they didn't want a 5 anymore. Is that how Mark said it that night, Brian? They don't want a 5 anymore, but we'll give an option, which I'm fine with, because if I'm not happy after the 3rd year, we'll go back to the board, and say, what do we got to do if I'm here? Mike?
Yeah, just double edged. So you mentioned that all the increases in the electric, like for the lighting districts,
Mhm.
are they all LED?
Yep.
All the lights, street lights?
Supervisor French started that, and it finished under, I believe, my first year,
Okay, good,
in every district.
good. On the ambulance again, the ambulance service.
Mhm.
Some of us were at a football game where there was an emergency. You were there. There was no response.
I helped carry him out.
There was no response. How long did we wait, honestly? 15, 20 minutes?
I don't know, well, they have a requirement by contract to be there within 15.
Yeah.
They were,
Every game we ever had at high school, that I can remember since my son was in high school, we always had on-site.
well, that was always a volunteer service that was there.
We're paying them, do they have to sit in-house? They can't be at an event where a child could have a heart attack like so many had.
They would,
Why are they not there?
they would have to respond anyway.
Because the school now has an athletic director that's required to be at the football game, so that eliminates the need.
That eliminates the need for a rig to be there, but if a rig is needed, then it goes through just the procedural call.
They cleared the call, they were out on another call that they're already going out in town. They had cleared that call, the emergency, they were needed in that call, so they were coming from a different.
That's the call that was in the bleachers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, just concerned. I mean, for the amount that we're paying, you know.
You're
I mean, from Dover.
that amount, you're only getting one.
From Dover to the high school, from Holland to the high school, in an ambulance, you know, priority 1, how long is it gonna take? Not very long.
Well, here's the one thing. I can't govern how they drive.
Correct.
I can't govern how fast they drive. Now, the rules say, yes, I can go lights and siren the whole way. I'm privy to probably exceeding the speed limits. Doesn't mean I'm gonna.
Correct.
It doesn't mean they're gonna. So there are provisions within the contract, and I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's within 15 minutes depending on where the call is. But they have a 2-minute response time, which means when they are dispatched, they have 2 minutes to be in that rig and responding.
And just concerned, you know.
No, I was there, I know. I helped carry them out.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Any new businesses coming into Dover that could probably offset some of this cost?
You have a restaurant being reopened that was already there, so it's still tax-based, the owner still pays the same taxes for the building. It would increase in sales tax to the county, which then would distribute down to us. I believe we have another business on the table in Dover. That land and school tax has always been paid, but now, if the business opens up, that'll help on the sales tax end of things. But other than that, we're trying.
Is that power plant offsetting more costs?
Cricket Valley?
Yeah.
Or the big one that's there already?
Yeah.
They are what they are. My predecessor entered into a pilot program. Payment in lieu of taxes. And what we receive from them is a lump sum, just like the school does. We get a lot less than the school. I can tell you that.
And we can't renegotiate that?
No, that's a 30-year agreement. That was an agreement based between the towns, the school, and the county. And the county is basically the lead on that. And you got to remember, the school gets, when you break down your taxes, okay, here's a simple example. Take a $100 bill. That's your school and your land taxes combined. $100 bill. 75 of that goes to your school. The other 25% is split between the town and the county. Say 12 and a half, 12 and a half. Actually, I think we get just a hair more than the county does. All right? So they negotiated it. I know I was against the number, but that's the number that was passed. That's the number that was negotiated, and that's the number we live with. Now, the project across the street, in their process, they said they want a full assessment tax bill. So they're going to be assessed based on the percentage that the town is, and they'll get a tax bill. They didn't want a pilot program, which I'm fine with.
So when's that going to affect?
Once it's finished, they'll get assessed, and then we'll whack them. Yes, sir.
What about bringing all of that back onto the tax rolls?
That is the state of New York. That's not me.
No.
There's another misconception, and I'll explain that right now, too.
Please do.
The top of that application, when they go after, what's the word I'm looking for?
Religious exemption.
Tax, say the word, Tom.
Tax exemption?
Tax exemptions, there you go. The top of the application says New York State. It doesn't say the town of Dover. They fill that out, they submit it, and the town of State tells me what we got to eat. Now, I've said it 100 times in my time up here. I will give credit where credit is due. My predecessor fought that 3 times. And the 3rd time, our legal counsel, both Tommy and another young lady out of the office who handles the tax certiorari's for us, they came to us and they said, you know what? This is the best deal you're going to get. You need to take this deal because, and I'll say it, we could have paid them back retro every bit of tax money that they paid before going up into that process, which is about 5 or 6 years worth of taxes, I believe. Full taxes. Now they pay what the state granted them. I believe it's upwards of 70 or 80% exempt. Now, religious status, the status that they have there, the organization, it all falls into it. But we can fight it, but we can only fight it so far before we end up paying more than we want to. Now, I have no problem talking about it like that. I probably shouldn't be, but that's the truth. You got the question, I'm going to let you know what you need to hear.
So it's above us.
It's above us. It's above us. And it ain't just the one location, it's a 2. You have the one in Wingdale, the old Harlem Valley, and then you have the one on Dover Furnace. We fought that one too. And again, I will give credit to my predecessor. She fought both of them, and I believe the second one came to fruition under me. Yes, sir.
State can cover that, some of that cost then?
No, the state gave them the exemptions.
I know, but I mean, you know.
No.
What do we do with that, huh?
Right to the governor.
Let me tell you, I'd have some bill to send the state. There's no doubt. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Regarding the ambulance service, the federal government offers grants to rural communities. Is that something that the town can apply for, or is that something that the company that we hire can apply for?
Truthfully, I'd have to look into that because I don't have the answer right now. I know other towns have looked into other ways of paying, and they weren't too successful. If that's the way they did look, that might be why. Maybe it's not. But truthfully, I'll look into that and I'll get you an answer. All right, because it's never been told to me, it's never been offered to me, it's never been brought up. So, because if it was, I would have looked.
There's a SAFER grant, but that's for your own employees.
Safer grant. I've heard that.
Is that the grant that you're talking about, or is it something different?
This is general, I just know there's a couple of federal grants out there, I don't know exactly about them, I could look into it more and get back to you with some information.
That's fine. If not, I'll be looking tomorrow. I'll be using county time tomorrow. Anything else? Mike?
Rich, I think you did pretty good dropping this down from 10 to 2. And that's very reasonable.
10 to 4.
10 to 4.
Yeah, 2.4 over. You're going
2.4 over, yeah.
And that's where you're shooting for. And we're really hoping you can stay there. And, I mean, you've done pretty good to get it there.
I'm safe to say right now, I'm not going to go 100%.
Right.
but I am 95% sure that's what we're going in at. The only thing I am waiting on is a little more insurance thing, a little more. Help me out. You know, the one increase I didn't talk about is retirement. State of New York finally squared up or caught up or whatever they did, readjusted things. State retirement hit me with $60,000+ this year, more than I gave last year. So there's another 60 grand. And when you look at that 5.9 right there, what's about 1%? 60 grand. So when you get hit with a $60,000, let's say a $6 million budget, that's 1% of the 2% that I cap at. It's hard to make up. Because truthfully, I'm sorry, 2% ain't nothing. It ain't nothing. And the towns do it over and over, but you know, some of the bigger towns have money. You know, some big towns, $35, $36 million budget. And they got over half of that in the bank. They can afford to throw $1 million or $2 million into there.
Yeah, no, I think this works for this year. My concern again, of course, next year, as you know, if you're putting 50, we're still gonna be 109 on top of that next year. Fire department, you're up next year?
No, we got
One more
We
year.
got one more. So we gotta think 2 years ahead.
Mhm.
You know, they're looking at another truck. I mean, they have their, you know, their vehicle replacement, but, you know, their budget's gonna increase.
And he explained, they're in a situation like Northern Dutchess was. The budget money that they get isn't meeting end to end. And it's increases that you don't anticipate when you sign that contract in year number one. And, you know, I'm not blaming Northern Dutchess for anything. They got to do what they got to do. They got to pay their personnel. They got to be competitive, okay? They got to be competitive. So I'm not happy that they wanted to whack us with 75%. I'm not happy that we got it down to 50. I wanted to get it, I tried for 25 to 30, and they weren't having it. But I understand it. I mean, the firemen in the back row, we understand because we were in that business for a while. We know what it costs. He gave you an example of what it costs tonight. You know?
But I know they get 12 to 1,500 per call.
Sure they do.
I know that.
Oh, sure.
I've been in 3 of them. My wife's been in 2 of them.
Yep. I've paid them.
They get 12 to 1,500.
Well, my insurance has paid them.
So do that times 900. How much money is that? It's over $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So don't tell me that that's where we're starting.
They don't, the problem is they don't get them all. If they get, and they tell you they can break it down, if they get 6 out of 10 claims,
Yep.
What's the
They're
percentage
good.
of the town of Dover that doesn't have insurance?
phew, a lot. A lot.
I think it's like 40%.
Yeah, it's a lot. I was gonna say 30 to 35, last we looked. But 40% is probably realistic.
500,000 to start.
Uh-oh.
See that power bill?
I think I hit the switch. Check that.
Yeah, it's back on, Reg.
It's coming. So, I mean,
I know
again,
you fought them hard. It's just, you know, it's frustrating.
we've done, thank you, guys. Have a good night, thank you. You know, so, I hate to say it this way, but it is what it is, and it is, you know, most of this is, it's the cost of doing business. And we're not the only ones suffering right now. Yeah,
Obviously, you know, it's a necessity, we have to have ambulance, but what I was going to ask is, Brian Kelly had went up and he had told us all his expenses and everything which are rectified, you know, like you have to do these things and we have to have these things, but why doesn't the fire department raise as much money as we used to in the past? Like, we don't do carnivals, we don't do, like, I know the carnivals cost money to have them, but we don't do that anymore. We don't do what we used to.
instead of one big fundraiser, they do 4 big fundraisers.
Well, I mean,
2 of them is the coin drop.
That actually equals the carnival.
Really?
Yes. It's in the same ballpark.
Right, okay. I mean, I guess if you're only looking at one-time event compared to all the ones you did, the clam bakes, the raffles, the fire, the carnivals and everything else, we don't, I mean, that's still something we could still do and still make money on top of that. You know?
Quite honestly, the biggest issue is manpower.
Yeah.
We have
They're already-
we have an aging volunteer force. We
That makes sense.
have no people coming, we're seeing more members leave than are coming in. And the carnival would take, 6 days, 7 days, 60 to 70 people. We don't have 60 to 70 people.
the logistics behind, unfortunately, EMS was first to experience the shortage of manpower. And that's why we're in a paid ambulance service situation.
It's a
We
switch, I
had no
think.
EMTs, so they were slowly dwindling, like I said, aging out, and we had no new fresh blood that was coming to replace it. So with no manpower, our ambulances that we had didn't get off the floor. And unfortunately, we're not gonna let the town, we're not gonna let somebody in good faith who needs our help not get help. So
Right,
the
so
only
I
way to
think
fix that is to go to a paid service to cover that.
So I think what I'm trying to say is like, even if we didn't have the rides and the carnival part of it, Dover does Dover Day. Millbrook, they do, or Millbrook, or wherever it is, they don't do carnivals anymore, but they do their, like a block parties.
Correct.
If
90% of,
I'll speak for Millbrook, because I've worked with those guys quite closely. They're not going to do a block party anymore if they don't make any money. Back to manpower, the cost of putting it on, the insurance, the vendor cost, the food cost, the number of people that physically go there, they're in the negative.
The sacrifice of the volunteers already to train and fight the fires, to ask them to do more to raise the money is difficult.
in most fire
I just
departments,
didn't understand that the 4 events that you do equal about the same as what you did for the carnival.
most fire departments, the fundraising that they do doesn't directly go towards their everyday expenses. Our budget that we put in covers our everyday expenses of things that we do. Our fundraising is to cover extra things, if we have stuff that needs to be done, equipment that breaks, things like that, stuff that we can't cover on a regular basis, or God forbid, we need a little bit of not a slush fund, but somewhere, some extra savings, as Supervisor Munoz said, to have in our back pocket in case we need to buy something or something extra that we would like to have that we didn't budget for initially. That's where our fundraising goes towards. And that's not just our fire department, that's probably every fire department out there that does their fundraising purposes.
I didn't, better understand than just assume.
There was years that we probably grossed 65, Brian? $75,000, and we barely took home 27. So when you look at that, in the old business days, I can tell you by, Judge Fusco and my father in the store, the standard commercial type business or what we would do there, you look at 33 to 35% profit. Well, $75,000 and we barely took home 27. I mean, it's the overhead, the manpower. We're talking about ambulance. You talk about becoming an EMT. Chief, it's upwards over 200 hours now just to get your EMT card. Then in between renewals, you got to take extra education classes. That's what I call them. They're called something different. But nobody has the time anymore. Back 50 years when Brian and Bob joined, 37 years for me, there wasn't 4 different little leagues. There wasn't 4 different soccer leagues. There wasn't flag football. Both parents are working again. The time isn't there for a lot of people. So this is where we're at. I mean, we've had a paid ambulance in town 20 years? 25? We're upwards of 25 years with a paid ambulance in this town.
Right, that's why I was asking earlier if we guys still had one.
It started out as 12 to help equalize the manpower that we had, and as the chief stated, the manpower on the volunteer side just dwindled. People didn't have time, people aged out, and then 12, 15 years ago, we decided to go 24/7. 5 years ALS, we were BLS before that. But 5 years ago, my predecessor, Millerton, Northeast, and Amenia, they all went 3-way contract ALS service, 24/7. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
I was going to ask 2 questions. So that cost that you quoted about the ambulance, and the 3 towns that we have a shared contract, but it's for 3 separate
We each pay our own, yes. Yeah, that's not divided by 3.
Right.
Yeah. We each pay our own fee. So that 401 comes from us. I'm going to say, I don't have the numbers in front of me because it's in my notes, but Amenia's up in the 470s, 480s, and Northeast is every bit of that as well.
But we have the coverage in the event that our ambulance is out for use.
If our ambulance is out, they bring in a mutual aid ambulance, and the first mutual aids they go to are Northern Dutchess to the north. Now, if the call's down to the south, the chief might know better. They might bring in Pauling because it's closer.
Got it. And then my other question, just to understand the tax cap.
Mhm.
Shamefully, I just pay my bills and I don't really get money. So there is a parent tax cap, 2%, where typically you don't allow the costs for the homeowners to go above that 2%. But you're saying because of this budget issue, you're putting in a request.
You were 1.8, 1.9% increase last year, but under the cap. So we didn't have to go through the override process. If we could keep it under 2% total, we don't have to override it.
So this particular override, and thank you for explaining what you said, it's a one-time only just for this year, another 2.4 over that 2%.
Yes.
So, and it's a one-time only, but then it stays. So next year, if in the event, God forbid, we're again in this situation and you have to go for another request, it's going to be an incremental increase.
No, not necessarily. Things could get better. Things could change. Bans could be paid off. Right?
I'm just saying, in the event we are in this situation again, we don't know.
I guess this budget, say we're here in 23 and 24, or 24, right? 25, we're going to take it to here. Okay? Now, we're here in 25. If things stay somewhat normal, somewhat equal in 26, we could be under 2%. Won't need to override it. It's just standard increases then. The problem is every year we have the bad habit, and boards before this one, we try the total line so tough, so tight, that it's often, you got to do things to stay at the 2%. Why? Because you're all accustomed to the 2% or less. Well, listen, we just went through a major election, and what was the factor? Economy, right? And you can see it. That's why I showed it to everybody. I saw what was coming tonight on social media. I went right to work today and I put that out there so you can all understand what we're seeing. All right? And it's everyday cost of living. Insurances, I can't help. Lights, I can't help. I can't help. My fuel price is less than you all, but it still goes up just like everybody else's. Right?
Maybe by next year, the governor will declare an ambulance service as essential services.
It is on the floor in the Senate and the Assembly right now that, yes, ambulance service will now be essential. Basically, it'll be equal to the fire protection. Okay? And there are certain ways to run the ambulance service where it won't affect your cap. Like certain towns have fire districts in them. Okay? So if in a fire district town, the district takes over the contract to the town, and because it's a fire district, it doesn't hurt your cap. It's still in your budget. It's still in the total budget. But it prevents the cap from going way over on a big increase like we're facing. You still have that 2%. See what you understand what I'm saying? We are a fire protection district in this town. There is a difference. J.H. Ketchum Hose Company is incorporated. They own themselves. They put a contract, they put a price. I don't do it because I have to recuse myself because I'm a member. But they submit a price, contract, we negotiate. We're in a fire district. Here you go, supervisor, pay this bill. Of course, they're elected officials, they're commissioners, they have to do the responsibility that just like we would. They have to have the taxpayer on the best of them. They have to remember the taxpayer. And they are obligated to do that 2% as well. But as Mr. Kelly's explained tonight, the mandatory costs that are being shut down by the state and by the feds, and if this OSHA thing comes through, you can all truthfully look out, because it's coming. And the town's responsibility, first and foremost, is to provide fire protection.
So next year, on the next budget, that you have to, for the next budget, it can go up again.
But hopefully we'll be within the 2%, and that's within the normal cap.
Right.
That part of hoping that I don't have to go over was the moves that I made this year. I paid off the big ban, okay, which was $76,000. That won't be in there ever again unless we have to replace something, right? The $50,000 that I showed you, right here, that's $50,000 ahead of time for next year. So again, instead of the 159, it's 109.
Hedging the increase.
I'm planning this year to help next year. And by doing that, I'm hoping that it comes back. I mean, because who knows what'll happen with me? I got at least one more budget to do. And that would be next year for '26.
These are the guys that you never want to have use your service, but you want to know that they're around in the event. And just as of recently, with the forest fires that we've seen house fires, devastation. I mean, I thank you guys for your service because I can't imagine. I've seen the photos of you guys in the thick of it, and I can't even imagine. I would love to volunteer. Dinner, I wouldn't want to be the ones lighting the fire, and I can't imagine you guys. So it's these folks that, you don't want to have the expense, but you take insurance in the event.
Listen, I'd like to be able to say, no, I'm not paying that. But you just can't do it on a lot of stuff. Any other questions? Mike, you're smirking over there, buddy. All right. Okay, one more time. Any other questions on the public hearing for the preliminary 2025 town budget? Seeing no hands raised or nobody approaching the podium, at this time I move that we close the public hearing on the 2025 preliminary town budget. Do I have a second?
Second.
Made by myself, seconded by Councilman Maluta to close the preliminary public hearing on the town budget for 2025. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So carried. With that, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Truthfully.
Yeah.
All right, there's more than not that people don't come and ask questions. All right, and I would have been maybe not just as prepared, but prepared for anything that came tonight. So thanks for giving me the heads up, whoever the anonymous person was. All right. All right, anything else? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ryan, appreciate it.
Brian, we'll get together on the hydrant and the contract thing next week? All right. See you, Mike. Resolution to authorize and approve the consent agenda items. Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Dover does hereby approve the following items for consideration and adoption on the November 6, 2024 Town Board Special Meeting consent agenda. Accept the draft minutes of the regular Town Board meeting of September 25th, 2024, and the October 16th, 2024 Town Board Special Meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Brought by Holmes, seconded by Maluta. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? So carried. Resolution adopting a determination of non-significance pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, to adopt a local law to override the tax levy limit established in General Municipal Law, Section 3-C, for the 2025 Town of Dover budget. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Dover has undertaken to adopt a local law to override the tax levy limit established in General Municipal Law, Section 3-C, for the 2025 Town of Dover budget. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Dover, as lead agency, determines this action to be a Type 2 action under SECRA and determines that no significant adverse environmental impacts will result from the adoption of this local law to override the tax levy limit established in General Municipal Law, Section 3-C, for the 2025 Town of Dover budget, and that no further action is required under the SECRA. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Brought by Murphy, seconded by Maluta. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, yeah. Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So carried. Resolution authorizing the adoption of local law number 2 of 2024 to adopt a local law to override the tax levy limit established in General Municipal Law Section 3-C for the 2025 Town of Dover budget. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Dover desires to adopt a local law to override the tax levy limit established in General Municipal Law Section 3-C for the 2025 Town of Dover budget, and whereas the Town Board of the Town of Dover authorized, I, Town Council, to prepare a proposed local law to override the tax levy limit established in General Municipal Law Section 3-C, 2, to initiate the process of environmental review of the proposed local law under seeker, and 3, to set a public hearing date on the proposed local law for November 6th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as public comment could be heard. Whereas notice of said public hearing was duly advertised in the Poughkeepsie Journal, the official newspaper of the Town of Dover, for the time period required, and whereas on November 6, 2024, a public hearing was held at 6:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter, as public comment could be heard at the Dover Town Hall, and all parties in attendance were permitted an opportunity to speak on behalf of or in opposition to said proposed local law. And whereas pursuant to Part 617 of the implementing regulations pertaining to said Article 8 State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, it has been determined by the Town Board that adoption of said proposed local law would not have the potential for a significant negative effect upon the environment and could be processed by other applicable governmental agencies without further regards to SECRA. And now therefore be it resolved that in accordance with the authority granted to it pursuant to New York State Constitution, Article 1X, Municipal Home Rule, Law Section 2, et sec., and Town Board of the Town of Dover hereby adopts said local law number 2 of 2024, a copy of which is attached hereto and made a part of this resolution, and be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to enter said local law number 2 of 2024 in the minutes of this meeting and in the local book of the Town of Dover, local law book of the Town of Dover, and to give due notice of the adoption of said local law number 2 of 2024 to the Secretary of the State of New York and the town clerk and supervisor, if necessary, are hereby further authorized and directed to take all actions necessary to file local law number 2 of 2024 with the Secretary of State as soon as legally possible. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Brought by Murphy, seconded by Holmes. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So carried.
Should I,
I
Can
see
I-
this other thing behind it. Do I need to read that?
can I just, do you think I
That's the form.
should do that as a roll call vote, or does it matter?
Oh, that's a law. You're correct. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's binding,
I mean,
Robert's rules, but you could, if the clerk prefers, you could do a roll call.
Only because we do that for local laws, and then it
That's
kind of
why
makes it
I
a...
had that written down and I
No
forgot.
worries.
I'm sorry.
If it's all right, and we'll just do it to memorialize it, if that's right?
Yep.
All right, excellent. So it's been motioned and seconded, all right? So, and now for the vote. Councilman Holmes? Councilwoman Jackson?
Aye.
Councilman Maluta?
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Murphy?
Aye.
Supervisor Unino?
Aye.
5 aye.
Okay, the ayes have it, once again. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, any public comments? Or anybody in the public that are remaining here today would like to say anything, ask anything, or make a statement, please approach the podium. Again, each and every one of you tonight, I thank you, truthfully. I appreciate the questions, I appreciate the comments and the concern.
I'll just say, please try to keep it at the percentage that you showed, not more than that.
Absolutely. That's my job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
You know, it's not important.
Sure it is. Go ahead.
I didn't see in your motion, when you guys called the motion, the actual increase saying in 2.3 4%.
But it might not, it's not final yet, it could be higher.
It could be different. It won't be final until the 20th.
Yeah, that's why I said.
You're approving the override. Sitting here right now, I am telling you right now, I am 95% sure. And if anything comes up against it, the people will be the first to know.
This is where we're trusting them in good faith to bring us aware of this, and that's why I asked, please just try
If there's anything over that, we will have another discussion.
Last year,
Absolutely.
we got a refund on our escrows.
Absolutely. The next meeting is the November 20th. That's the night that we voted in. And there are public comment at the beginning and at the end. Okay?
So then we'll know exactly what needs to be.
Yep. I see no changes. Okay?
That's also when the budget happens.
Knock on wood.
So the towns are required by November 20th to have budget?
That's what.
The law states on or before November 20th, you have to put a law in, adopt a budget. And then I believe it has to be to the county within so much time after that.
We're up against Thanksgiving, that's why.
Yeah. The regular meeting would have been the 27th. It's the night before Thanksgiving. So this year, the calendar fell in our favor where a week earlier is actually the 20th. And the law states on or before November 20th. We have to put it in place. Okay? Anybody else? All right, with that, upcoming meetings, November 20th. That would be our next meeting date. That will be considered a regular meeting. That will be the night where we'll handle regular business as well as vote the budget in. Okay? After that, I don't know the dates.
I got it.
So with that, November 20th meeting, with that, I'm going to make a motion to go into an executive session to speak on a personnel issue and not return to the dais. That will be the end of the meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made by myself, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Murphy, that we go into an executive session to discuss a personnel issue and not return to the dais